Hi, this is Corral again, and we're going to finish up the verb forms, okay, because I did the simple form, the infinitive, which is, let me just give you a regular verb once again, the verb form, the infinitive, which is to, and let me give you the verb talk, regular verb, as an example, to talk. The simple form is talk. The past tense form, not the past tense, the past tense form is talked. The past participle, once again, it's not the past participle is talked. But remember, this and this might look similar, well, not might, they are similar to each other as far as the way they look, but they do not mean the same thing, because this is used with the verb to have. And other verbs too. It can also be used with the verb to be, depending. Okay. And then the last one that I'm going to be looking at, and I haven't looked at it yet, but since we're going to be talking about, is when we're talking, the ing. The ing. But let's just look at verb forms again. Let's list them. But now let's look at an irregular verb, and then you'll see how this and this are not similar. So you have the verb to eat. So this is regular. That means it follows the rule. I can give you the rule. I can tell you how to do it. Now let's look at the verb to eat. The verb to eat is an irregular verb, not in the present indicative. It's not irregular. It's irregular in these two forms right here. So it's eat, simple form. This is the infinitive, eat. The simple form is eat. The past tense form is ate. Completely changes. Completely changes. The past participle form, to have eaten. Right? Now, what we're going to talk about here, which is the present, present participle, and it's eating. Be very careful, because a lot of times, especially in American English, we're very not very careful how we pronounce the endings of our words. So sometimes this and this can sound alike. But this is eaten, and this is eating. Okay. So, just for the people who would speak Spanish, you can see very clearly in Spanish that this and this are the same. So this would be hablar. This would be, depending on the person, habla, hablas, hablamos, whatever. This would be, depending on the person, hablé, hablaste, habló, right? But this would be he hablado. It would be the hado. Right? He hablado. Has hablado. And in Espanol, this would be hablando. Hablando. Okay, it would be the A in the ando ending. So in Spanish, it's very clear the difference between the past tense form, hablé, hablaste, and the past participle form, he hablado, has hablado, hemos hablado, habría hablado, hubiera hablado. Okay. Once again, in Spanish, it'd be very clear, as it here in English is very clear. This would be comer. This would be como, comes, come. This would be comí, comiste, comieron. This would be comido, he comido, has comido, hubiera comido. Okay? This would be the ando, comiendo, comiendo, the iendo, comiendo. This would be the ido, comido. Okay. So, por ejemplo, estás comiendo, estabas comiendo, estuviste comiendo. Okay. So let's look at this last one, the last verb form in English. Very simple to form. And by the way, I can't think of any exceptions This is completely and totally regular, even for irregular verbs. Let me give you an example. All right, so we're talking about the present participle form. The present participle, not the past participle, but the present participle. Because the present participle is just the opposite of the past participle. The majority of the most important verbs in English in the past participle are irregular, where almost, I can't think of an exception, but in English there's always an exception. But as of now, I can't think of an exception where a verb in the present participle is irregular. Because even the most irregular verb in English, the most irregular verb, which is the verb to be, is regular when you put it in the in the present participle. Now, there are verbs that you cannot put in the present participle. That's true. You can't put the verb might, or would, or will. No, will you can, but only when it has a different meaning. Right? Only when it has a different meaning, not when it means what the auxiliary will means. You can't put the verb can. You can't put the verb you're being able to help. No, you really don't say that, the verb to be able to. No. But you can put the verb to be. Let me show you. Now, the verb to be is one of the most, it is the most irregular verb in the English language. It's one of the only verbs, I think the only one, but I'll say one of the only verbs that has 3 forms in the present tense. I am, you, we, they are, he, she, it is. But let's look at it. You want to put the verb, you have the verb to be, right? And you want to use the present participle form. That's no problem. Just get rid of the to. And then add the ing. Now, if you can do that with the verb to be, what verb can't you do it with? Right? Like I said, oh girl, you're being silly. You are being silly, right? So, all you do is get rid of the to and add the ing. Now, like I said, you cannot use this form of the verb. You cannot use the following verbs in this form, like the verb can, or should. These auxiliary verbs, or would, right? Will you can, but not when will means an auxiliary verb meaning. When it means something else. Like, when will means, like in Spanish, dispuesta. Estoy dispuesta, right? I am willing. I am willing. But there that means I am... Can't think of an example, a synonym other than in Spanish of I am willing. I am willing to do something. I am willing to help you. It's sort of like I'm available, okay, to help you, okay? But will, when it means like the future or when it's a form of a command, you cannot use will. Another verb, let's see the verb to eat, which is also irregular, right? Right? You just get rid of the to and you add the ing. Notice I did not double that T. You only double the T under certain circumstances. But this is not one of the circumstances in which you double the T. You know what I'll do in one of the videos? We'll talk about how you determine in a word when you add a suffix, when you double and when you don't double. That is when you add another T. Okay. Or you have the verb to play. Right? And you want to, do this. And then add the ing. Notice I did not remove the Y. So what we'll do in another tape, in another video, we'll look at when you put on a suffix and a word ends in Y, or it ends, it's a short word that ends in a consonant, when do you double the consonant and when do you remove the Y and add I instead? Okay, we'll talk about that later. So, once again, and you use the present, this is called the present participle. Now, some grammarians are now beginning to use it, present participle and the gerund to mean the same thing, gerundio. But the gerund in traditional grammar is when a verb is playing the role of a noun. It's using the same form, but it doesn't mean the same thing. When you use the present participle, you're using the verb to be plus the present participle of the main verb. For example, I don't know, we are sleeping. There it is. We are sleeping. You sometimes use, depending on the verb that comes before, you can also use it when you have two verbs in a sentence. For example, I love. Now you can say, I love to eat. You can say that. Or you can say, I love eating, I-N-G. I love sleeping. Now why? Because you have to know, in English, you have to know the rule of the verb. So if you have the verb love, you are allowed to use two forms. You can, and it means the same thing, to eat or eating. But just before I leave, let me just give you one example where the two forms do not mean the same thing. Real quickly here. Now you have the verb to stop, right? To stop. Now you can say, I stop to eat, or I stop eating. So let me just write this real quick for you. Real quick. Now notice I'm doubling the P. We'll talk about that. Another video. I stopped to eat, I stopped eating. Where here, I love to eat and I love eating means the same thing. I stopped to eat means I was walking, I stopped, I went into a restaurant to go eat. Versus I stopped eating means I was eating, I saw someone and I stopped the activity that I was doing. Okay? So you have to be careful. But the point is, because we're talking about present participle, you can see after the verb stop, you can use either, depending on the meaning, the infinitive form or the present participle. So the present participle can be used as a part of the progressive or continuous tenses. And that's called, I am talking, I was talking, I have been talking, I will have been talking, I would have been talking, or I would be talking, all those different tenses. Or it can be used, depending on the verb, as the second verb of a verb. Okay, this gets a little bit complicated, so I'll probably be making more videos on this. So, once again, Corella Ficklin McLean at welcome.com. Thank you very much and have a very good day.